zombies are coming at me and I don't know what the f to do, and then they eat me.
This was your first Resident Evil
The first time I ever played a Resident Evil game was 2, and it was already out for a while.
I had the same problem,
Yeah, and I
never got into those.
When they swarm you, and like in Resident Evil 2, they swarm you.
And that's why.
They knock you to the floor, and they eat you until Leon screams, and then it just says, and blood hits the screen, and then it just says, you're dead. And
That's awesome.
saw that, and I was like, messed up for like a week afterwards. I was like, holy shit.
It's time for the Cinemassacre Podcast. And now, the hosts with the most, James, Kieran, Justin, and this badass guest.
Welcome back. It's the Cinemassacre Podcast. Hope you've been enjoying Monster Madness around the world. Every day is a movie from a different country. We have Adam again here.
What's going on, guys?
Yep. Tell them a little bit about what you do.
So my name's Adam. I go by SquarePainter, and I paint pixel art from old video game stuff from our nostalgia, just keeping it alive on canvas. I've been doing it since like 2005, messing around. Started taking it more serious around 2009. My first convention was September 2010, Too Many Games, and just been doing that since. That's how I know all of you guys, just from the convention scene.
And you have a lot to say about aliens and horror movies and games.
I do. I have a lot to say about aliens and horror movies and video games and all the things, all those things. And I don't know, have you guys heard of this band called Rex Viper?
Mm-mm.
Nah, they're all right, I guess. They're kind of cool. I don't know. I play bass in that band. It's pretty fun. Digging back into my roots of doing that. Hadn't played an instrument in over 10 years. Never thought I'd be playing in a band again. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. Bass is what I started with. Moved to guitar, and it's nice to be back playing bass.
And we're going to talk about some things today, like scary moments in video games that you remember as a kid.
Yeah, that
now,
sounds pretty good.
Of course, the games that we played as a kid weren't really that scary at all, but there's always like some little moment in there that might have left an impression on you, even if it wasn't like really scary. It's just something you remember. So any of you guys have any that you remember?
Yeah, definitely. Contra, the level 3 boss, when you're going up the waterfall.
Yeah.
And it just like gets dark and scrolls up, and it's like that big xenomorph looking thing with the huge swinging arms and like breathing fire. That scared the crap out of me when I was a kid. And then getting to the end and it's a heart coming out of the wall. Like I loved Contra. I was like fascinated with it, but it freaked me out too.
Yeah.
And
the way that thing appears at the waterfall stage.
Yeah.
And it has that face with those weird teeth and everything.
Yeah, it looks like an alien, like xenomorph, it looks like. But yeah, like the reveal of it, of how it scrolls up and then fades in. Like this thing was waiting for you up there.
Yeah.
I just remember that. I was like 6 when I saw that. Scared the crap out of me. And then the castle levels just from Super Mario Brothers. Because I never saw anything like that when you first played Super Mario Brothers. How the levels were bright and cheerful, and then you get to the castle and it's black and just grays with friggin' fire, and the music was really scary. And then again, it was like a fascination about it, but it freaked me out, especially like as you're getting close to Bowser, you start seeing the fire coming at you. Like, what is breathing that? What is coming to it again? Like a build up to it. So yeah, those would be like my big picks. Also, like Castlevania, I guess I played those when I was a little bit older. Like I got into it maybe when I was about 10. I played the first Castlevania, and that one, like by that point I wasn't like scared of games. It was just like I never saw a game that had like such a big horror motif to it, that like everything, it was like demons and skeletons, then that you're fighting like a giant vampire bat's the first boss. Like I never played a game like that before that was like a horror themed game.
Yeah. And there's something about the color scheme in that first level when you got those bright red curtains coming down. It had such a blood look to it, the way that red just stuck out. Yeah. And it must be like, I mean, I can't confirm it, but I feel like they're kind of, those games are really inspired by the Hammer films.
Oh, and, totally.
Yeah, and in the Hammer films, especially Scars of Dracula, they're always doing something with the color red. Like there's red curtains that it'll fade into like there's like red candles, and then there's the red blood, and Dracula's eyes are red, and that it always stands out. And just like in that game, because like the walls, as I remember, were like a washed out white,
they're like
or gray
brick. I was just playing it recently. Yeah, but it's like that gray brick, and then it has like the red on there. But absolutely, like I watched the Hammer horror movies later, like when I was like 13, and I'm like, oh, this is totally like the developers for like when Castlevania 4, they absolutely were pulling from these, but definitely the red, like how red the blood was. It was like ketchup red.
Yeah.
In those, and I always liked that about it. Like they really wanted to make that stand out.
I think a lot of games as a kid didn't scare me per se, like a creepy feeling throughout. You know, when like Silent Hill and those kind of games came out later.
Right, that was later on.
But all the 8-bit games. But there was a lot of jump scares that got me. Like in Mario 3, when you first go in the castle and the statue laser hits you.
Oh, at the end, and Bowser's Castle.
I was like, oh, shit.
No one expected that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of a cheap shot. Yeah.
It
Very
definitely
much.
is. Yeah.
I would say probably the Jurassic Park on the Sega Genesis scared the shit out of me as a kid.
That was the one I was going to say.
Wait,
Okay,
now
so
really?
go for it. Yeah,
okay,
that was it.
No, what's it called? So the first movie that really scared me as a kid was Jurassic Park. Like I had nightmares about that movie for literally months.
How old were you in 90?
Well,
3, 4.
93, I was like about 6 or 7.
I was 9.
Yeah,
I
so I was
12.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was
yeah.
13. I might have still been 12 when it came out. But yeah, it wasn't like it didn't scare me, but it was like scary just enough where it was cool. It was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, like the
I
part
was-
where they with the windshield with like the T-Rex
Yeah.
and
Oh
like
my
biting
God, the
against
whole part and when the
just that-
T-Rex first comes out, that was some of the most intense like fright I've ever seen in a movie at the time when I was a kid.
Yeah, if you're
And
6, that's
I was
pretty
into
scary.
dinosaurs and things like that
and
and
the kids
whatever,
are
but
screaming the whole time.
Yeah.
But just the fact that this T-Rex is smashing this thing, trying to kill these two kids, and you're just watching this happen. And as a kid, I remember, like, I had adrenaline watching this.
Yeah.
I remember, like, my dad got me the movie, and we were at his house, and I was like, oh my God, I was so scared. And then for months and everything afterwards, I was having nightmares about dinosaurs, and I didn't want to be in the basement alone because I was afraid of velociraptors and stuff. And then
You know
I
what
got
part
the
scared me?
Genesis game.
Yeah. Like, so there's the movie and there's the game. But, you know, in the movie, the part that I thought was like the creepiest, that I was like, wow, that's so cool. There's just the cinematic choice of when they're inside the car and the camera is inside the car with them shooting out. And the T-Rex comes by, like in the background, through the window, you see it, or the door's open, and the T-Rex doesn't see him yet. But then one of the kids shuts the door
and it like looks.
And then it looks. Yeah.
That freaked me out. I was like, that is awesome.
Also,
Yeah.
when its face comes down in the eye, the pupil gets small.
Yeah, with the
Yeah.
flashlight and
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
It was just that whole scene, and I think so that came out in '93, was it?
Yeah,
Okay.
93, I remember seeing it in the
so
theater.
I was
Yeah.
born in December of '86, so I was about 6. I was 5 turning 6, or I was.
That's a
but the thing
scary movie to see when
I
you're that
watched it
age.
on VHS. So my dad got it on VHS, and this was after it had come out. So it was whenever it was on VHS. This was probably '94. I was probably 6 turning 7, and I remember. I loved the movie. I watched it a bunch, but it scared the shit out of me. And then I got the Genesis game, and I wouldn't play it by myself. The music of it was scary. The level where you're in the power station, and it's just this like quiet kind of like this music to it, and everything's dark, and the first time the T-Rex busts through the wall and it eats you and stuff, it was actually a pretty scary game.
What's very smart about the Jurassic Park games, even the Rampage edition, it's even scary playing as the Velociraptor.
Yeah.
Even when you're the
Right.
dinosaur, you're scared of shit.
I was used to the Super Nintendo one. I'm like trying to think what you think
No,
of. Like,
no.
you could play as Alan Grant
Yeah,
or
the Genesis one
The Genesis, yeah.
specifically.
that one's way better than
Oh,
the
the
Super
music
Nintendo
is
one.
like
Yeah, the
way
music
better.
is just is
the part
creepy.
I
part
vaguely
about
remember it.
Yeah, so the specific part about the Genesis game that of course, I wasn't like scared, but I just thought it was cool. But it was definitely like scary. Where when the game starts off and they do the T-Rex attack, and it's scary in a different way than the movie is, because they had that weird strobing flash.
The lightning.
Yeah, and it
Yeah.
has the
And-
car in its mouth and everything.
Yeah, and I would just watch that part of the beginning like over and over in a dark room, like I had all the lights shut off so that the room would
would
strobe with it. Yeah.
That might
And
make a
when
cool painting. I got to look at that
it
screen
might,
cap.
yeah. But the part I remember, there's 2 shots. There's one where it's like framed like inside the car, and you see
him in the rearview mirror,
yeah,
the eyes
and
of the guy reacting.
I think.
Yeah, it's
but
it's the T-Rex is coming over like this way.
Yeah, and it like slides in,
if
and the way it does it, where it's like
you can see when you see what's it called, the rear view mirror. You see the guy's eyes widening, like
So
getting
it's supposed to be like the shitty lawyer.
I was too busy looking at the T-Rex.
I think it's Grant. It's actually you see his eyes in the mirror, and they just get like
bulge.
wide.
Yeah.
I remember
then,
seeing that as a kid and being like, and it looked like a movie because it was these digitized pictures. It was actually really.
I remember the T-Rex saying like Sega.
In the
at
opening.
the
does,
beginning.
yeah.
That's the one thing I really
that's
remember
right.
about
That's when
it.
you know you're in for a treat on the Genesis when something happened with the Sega logo up
Yeah.
front.
Oh yeah,
They
that was
would
so
always
cool.
do stuff like that.
Yeah.
Vector
And then
Man
the
had
next
the best
shot.
one.
Yeah, Vector Man had
Where you actually
great,
could blow the Sega logo
go-
up.
yeah.
So yeah.
And then that next shot, it's like holding the car in its mouth,
And, like, shaking
everything's
it.
like and I think that's when it strobes.
Yeah.
and that
And you
music
hear
you're
the guy
saying
go,
like, yeah, like, that was just probably the most terrifying opening to a game that I can remember.
It's
from
also
back then.
scary when you're the raptor because it shows you break out and it does like that raptor noise, like that, you know, whatever.
You see the fence break first, and
and-
then it's in front of the screen when the lightning
And that's
strikes.
funny because you're scared of the
who you are.
protagonist.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
No, that game, honestly, I used to play it all the time. I can beat that game really
I
quickly.
never remember
I can
anything
beat it
past
as
the first
either
level.
character.
Me
I
too.
can like
Yeah.
speed run it kind of.
It's tough.
Not
It's one of those
speed run, but
games
I
where you
can
don't know
run
where the
through
hell
it.
you're going. It's like a
yeah.
platformer that's everywhere.
It's one of those games where, you know, I feel like everybody who grew up in the 90s, you had this kind of thing. Not so much now because everybody has collections of whatever game they want, but you only had 7 or 8 games that you had.
Oh, yeah, and you played them
throughout
over and
a
over.
console's lifespan, unless you rented some, and you would play those games constantly. So Jurassic Park was one of those games that I beat it because I kept playing it
Right,
over and
right.
over. Like I had that. I had Golden Axe, Moonwalker, Jungle Book, Aladdin. Like I can literally
had some
count
good
all the
ones in
games I
there.
had on like
Yeah.
2 hands probably. Sonic Spinball. And I had the Sonic games, of course, but other than that, I rented other games. But
Yeah.
Jurassic Park was just one of those games that I've played it so many times because it's one of the
one of
games I
those
owned.
for
that's-
me was
yeah.
like Super Pitfall, which is not a good game. Actually, I remember when you did the nerd episode of that.
Yeah.
It was hysterical because like I played that game nonstop because I had it. Now, like once you get used to its crap factor, it's not that bad. I remember jumping all around to find all the secret items and getting to the second area of that game. Like I had a lot of fun playing Super Pitfall. It's a bad game, but it's one of those that I
It's
had
a nostalgic one. It's really
Absolutely,
big,
yeah. It's
Me
a
and my
bad
cousin
game.
used to play a lot.
I have a
yeah.
ton of nostalgia for that game. But yeah, I feel that of having like 7
Yeah.
games in your library, and that's all
Well,
you
Yeah.
have.
that's the thing, right? Is back then, us like in terms of horror games or games that were made to be scary, a lot of people didn't have them because unless they were licensed games like, you know, Jurassic Park or Friday, or like Friday the 13th or something like that, there weren't many that we kind of had or that popular with friends. Like, you know, aside from something happening or like Castlevania or something happening to you in a Mario game,
Right.
Like, do you remember having any actual games meant to be scary?
Not really.
Not until like the PlayStation 1,
You
right?
know, I mean,
Yeah, when like horror games came out.
I mean,
Resident
other
Evil.
than Resident Evil 2 was the first one that when I first played that freaked me. Like I remember playing that. I was 12 when that came out in '98. So I remember playing that at my brother-in-law's house, and he was like, "Oh yeah, you can." Here, play Resident Evil 2, like try it out. So I played it, and the first opening scene where you get out of the car and you're running through the streets of Raccoon City, and there's a part where you get out of the bus. You go through like a bus that was crashed or whatever. I think it's that part, or no, it's the first area you walk into, and you just hear this like kind of splatter noise,
Right.
And you don't know what it is, and then you come up and you just see like 4 or 5 zombies eating a body,
Right.
And it's
you never saw
horrifying
that
seeing
before in a
that.
game.
And then also too, the first time I ever played that game, I didn't even know how to draw my gun. I didn't know that you had to hold the R1 and then hit another button to fire. So zombies are coming at me and I don't know what the fuck to do. And then they eat me.
This was your first
The
Resident
first
Evil
time
game.
I ever played a Resident Evil game was 2, and it was already out
I had
for a
the
while.
same problem. Yeah.
Yeah, and I got
I never
eaten,
got
and
into those. I
When
never got
they
into the Resident Evil
swarm
games.
you, and like in Resident Evil 2, they swarm
And that's
you.
why.
They knock you to the floor and they eat you until Leon screams, and then it just says, and blood hits the screen, and then it just says you're dead. And
That's
I
awesome.
saw that, and I was like messed up for like a week afterwards. I was like, holy shit, this is
Wow.
That's
this
intense.
is messed up. Like, other than that, I mean, maybe also actually over there, I played Splatterhouse in the arcade as a kid. I went to this birthday party and there was a Splatterhouse machine. And I remember
Really? You never saw those.
it was
growing up.
weird.
Even
And
though those are
especially because
rare now.
everybody's like, everybody's playing Street Fighter and shit. But then one kid was like, yo, have you seen this game? It's messed up. And I was watching my friend play where you hit the guys with the axe or the butcher knife and they cut in half and you smack them and they splatter on the wall, and then you get to the room filled with intestines and
with like the mouths
and
coming at
they
you.
bite you and the last one pops out of a dead body and eats you. That thing.
Well, that's
that
the
was
thing.
pretty
Like
fucked
a
up.
lot of arcades growing up, you rarely had Splatterhouse or like Chiller or something like that.
Oh, I never saw any of those.
Where it was made to be scary. Like it was always the quarter pumping
Dude,
fighting
I was,
games.
of course.
I was
or
always in
brawlers.
arcades. Honestly, I didn't have a console until I got a Genesis, but late. I got it when Aladdin and Sonic Spinball were brand new, pretty much.
Well, the
So
problem
that
too
was
is
like 95 probably.
yeah, I got it
94.
like 94, I think.
Yeah.
the
And-
arcades were just better.
Yeah.
Because the whole point, they were just home consoleized versions of arcade
Well,
games.
that was the thing too, like because I grew up. My parents were divorced, so like my dad would get me on certain days of the week or whatever.
Right.
So he was like, "Well, what do you want to do?" And I'd be like, "Well, I like video games." My dad knew I liked video games, so he, was like, "Oh, I know where there's an arcade," so he would take me to the arcade, and it was like this insane thing that I can go to a place to play video games. I used to have to stand on
that's-
milk crates to play them
to
too.
be fair, $5 in quarters is cheaper than a
Oh,
rental
yeah.
or
Oh,
or
getting-
buying a
and-
game.
and
back
Dude, getting
then.
like,
$5 in
yo,
quarters, that's like
on
was like
Long
a real
Island?
treat
Yeah.
when you got
Oh,
that.
yeah.
My
Mom
dad
give me
would
$5
take us. There was on Long Island. There was arcades everywhere. There was this place called Fun Zone, and on Route 110. And my dad would literally take me there on an afternoon, hand me a $5 bill. I'd put that in the machine, and I was done
for like the
week-
afternoon
for the whole night.
Did you ever go to Hot Skates on Long Island?
No, I've been to United Skates.
All right, because Hot Skates was like in Valley Stream,
United Skates.
right near Brooklyn, and I didn't know how to skate when I was a
Uh-huh.
kid, so they took us there, and that was like the first arcade that I went to because they had like a Rampage machine there, and
Okay,
like
yeah.
Operation Wolf. So I just remember getting like one of those like red like slush puppies with the little dog.
I
on it.
remember
those.
yeah.
They're like nuclear red.
I
Talking
remember
about red.
Operation Wolf, like playing that with the and that was a
the
game
dual
I stood
Uzis.
on a milk
Yeah.
crate. My dad had to like pick me up a little bit, and I was like with the Uzi trying to aim it, like I was 4 or something like that.
Yeah.
I think I was a little kid when I would go to the arcades all the time.
Yeah, I was probably about I guess like 7 at the time, but Rampage like. That was like the first like
Yeah,
big game ever
Rampage.
playing
Did
in the
anything ever
arcade.
scare you in the arcade? I don't think so. You ever been scared in an arcade?
House of the
don't
Dead
think so,
creeped
but
me out. That's
It's
about
creepy,
it.
but it's not
I
like
mean,
scary.
No. I was already-
Yes, like Mortal Kombat. First time I saw
Yeah,
it, I
you
That
know
was
what?
just like, are you fucking kidding
Yeah.
me? That is
Oh,
awesome.
so that was
Yeah.
just awesome, not
yeah,
scary.
that was that
Yeah.
wasn't scary. That was amazing.
Oh,
Yeah.
you know what scared me? When I was a kid, Alien 3, The Gun.
Oh, I remember
When
that.
when
yeah.
the fucking facehuggers would hit the screen, I was like,
Oh,
oh,
okay.
shit.
I
Yeah,
wouldn't say
that's
Mortal
right,
Kombat
right.
1 scared me, but Mortal Kombat 2 was way darker than Mortal Kombat
Yeah,
1. Like
yeah.
I remember the first time I ever saw in the when you get hit in the pit in Mortal Kombat 2, it's way more grim,
Visceral,
Like
yeah.
you it's a guy falling and then they just hit the ground and blood.
Blood
And
on
I
your
remember
back,
seeing
like-
that
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
like.
I remember
like,
the
freaked
background,
out.
like with that one stage with that red portal swirling in the
Yeah.
back. It was like something out of Hellraiser or something.
There's also there's the Wasteland, the one that where it's like there's a bunch of impaled people in the background, just like on the floor. Like
Oh, that was like my game when by the time Mortal Kombat 2, because Mortal Kombat 1 kind of just quietly came out and I didn't know what it was until I like saw it in an arcade one time. Mortal Kombat 2 was like
It was
really
a fucking
yeah.
event
Yeah.
when that came out.
It was like we need to go to the arcade and see this like now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just remember like the first time seeing it and seeing Baraka slicing people up, I was like,
Baraka
this
was
is the best fucking thing I've ever seen.
Baraka was the first person that I fought in Mortal Kombat 2. The first time I ever played it, I was Scorpion because I recognized Scorpion.
Yeah.
And I played against Baraka, and when you see the portrait of him, and he's just got that face with the teeth, and then he has
teeth.
claws coming out,
Yeah.
it scared the shit out of me. And I remember he just killed me. Just kicked my ass. I was like a kid, and I got destroyed.
Those are the worst in the arcade because you're never really going to get to figure the game out because you're always going to go up against somebody there who's a master.
That's what I hated about Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
Always,
Yep.
like, I'd finally get on the machine, and then some big kid would come over, play player 2,
Yo.
and
Yeah,
I'm
those
off
big
immediately.
kids.
Fucking big kids, man.
You fucking remember
Fuck
that,
'em.
like,
You sound like
someone would-
Charlie Brown right now.
Someone would come down and just put their quarter on the machine,
Yeah.
like, I'm next.
Yeah. That was like, I remember later on, like, I was pretty good at Street Fighter for a while, like when Super Street Fighter came out. I remember that was a thing. You put your quarter down.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in Mortal Kombat, or Street Fighter, anyone could join. They put player 2 in and go, and you're in the middle of a match, and you're like, oh, now I gotta fight this motherfucker.
That was
Yo,
what
I used to
always
be-
happened.
I
I'm
never
9
lost
years
my-
old.
Yeah.
Some fucking teenager come
Yeah,
over
dude,
and
I
get me off
used
the
to
machine.
I used to beat the older kids all the time. They
Really?
would come
I
in and
never
go
did.
and like put the thing, and I'd fuck them up. And then they were like, and I had like people leave. I've had where grown adults would come in, especially when the PlayStation versions of the games came out, like X-Men versus Street Fighter and Alpha
right.
and all those. I used to play those in the arcade. I used to go to arcades up until I was like, any age really. I've been going to arcades all my life.
Yeah, so we talked
Yeah,
about
so-
some scary games. You want to talk about some scary movies?
Yeah, since it's, second week into Halloween, we haven't talked any movies yet. So I'll just tell you the kind of movies I try to fit in during the Halloween season. I try to mix it up a little bit where I watch some old classics that I've seen a million times as like that comfort thing, very nostalgic. And then some modern horror. Like I like to see some things that I've never seen yet. Especially with Monster Madness, I watched a lot of movies that I have never seen before. So it was very, very educational. But a lot of times it comes down to wanting to see something that is going to invigorate that Halloween spirit. What's a movie that's just going to make you feel like, okay, this is Halloween? And I think one that's really good actually is Halloween 3, Season of the Witch.
That's the best Halloween movie.
we were
I'm
just talking
sorry.
about it before this.
I
how
think
good
that
it is.
whole
Everything about
if
it.
you're calling your movie Halloween, everyone should be different, and it just happens to take place on Halloween. Like, so Halloween 1 with Michael Myers, and then Season of the Witch, and they were all different. I think that would have been really cool.
That was the
biggest
idea.
problem, I think because by the time they got to 3, they were like, we killed off Michael Myers, we burned him, he's incinerated, let's take it into an anthology direction. So every movie is going to be a different Halloween theme. I think the biggest problem with Halloween 3 was Halloween 2, actually, because that kind of made it seem like, well, it's going to be Michael Myers every time,
Absolutely.
right?
That's what I thought too,
Yeah.
because I love, like, John Carpenter is one of my favorite directors ever, and I always skipped over Halloween 3, even though 4 and 5 are shitty.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, Halloween 3 is the stupid one without Michael Myers. I'm not even going to bother watching this. I love the first 2 classics. The other ones, I just want to see Michael Myers fuck people up more. But they're dumb, you know, with the psychic girl. There's the one where you could see his eyes through the mask, and that takes away
5,
the entire scary
And
factor of
it-
it seeing his eyes.
His eyes were shot out in part 2.
And
so,
yeah. And he should have gotten more and more fucked up each time because they burned him at the end of 2.
He should have
been
been
completely burned up and
Cause
the next one.
Kind of like the zombie approach with Jason, but they never did that with Michael. They always made it like, oh, well, he survived,
Right.
But I think that would have been cool if his body was just all creepy and just zombified.
Yeah, but even with Jason Voorhees, they would change his, even after the iconic look in 3, they would change how he looked in all of them. I watched part 4 recently. His hands in part 4 are fucking disgusting, man. You see him grabbing people, they are just gross, gnarled, massive zombie hands. They're fucking nasty. Just look at that the next time you watch 4, which I guess I go back and forth if 3 or 4 is my favorite.
With Jason.
Yeah, with Friday the 13th.
4, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
He's got
I go-
Crispin Glover
with the
goofing
dance.
around. And,
Yeah.
Oh, what
And the
was
makeup
that Back
on-
in Black he was supposed to be dancing
Right,
to?
right, and they
AC/DC?
changed it.
Yeah, that's right. And Tom Savini did the effects on Jason.
Yeah, it shows.
He did 1 and 2, I know. before, I think when he did 4, he was doing his best work.
Did he do 3? I don't remember.
I don't remember.
Is that the 3D one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
When
the
he
one I
first
like
gets
a
the
lot.
mask.
I just
Yeah.
the
I've been
ending
trying to
to that
find
one
that
freaks
in
me
like.
out.
Yeah, I've been trying to find that in good 3D. I don't know if it exists because
Yeah.
you can get it on Blu-ray, but it's like the blue and the red glasses. It's not like the proper 3D.
I had a
don't
friend growing up that was an idiot, and he looked exactly like that guy Shelley
Oh,
in
yeah,
the movie
yeah.
with the floofy hair.
Shelley.
And he was just like a goofball like that too.
The ending to that one creeped me out, where it's like the girl gets away on the boat, and then you see Jason in the house, and he's like, whoa,
Yeah,
in the
with
window,
no mask on.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
that actually freaked me out a little bit, and then. But yeah, that was actually the first ever Jason movie I ever saw. Was the third one. It was just on TV one night.
I remember I saw
like
the
a cable
first one
channel.
first, like on
I
like
saw them
Monster
all on
Vision.
Monster Vision right here.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
how I saw all the original. Like once I got into like the slasher
yeah.
movies, like
And they were
I-
censored, but Joe Bob would complain about the censoring.
But, but later at night on TNT, they had them on like cable, like after like 11 or something like that, where they were uncensored.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I remember like where I was. I'm pretty sure it was, but I remember seeing
think
them on
they-
cable uncensored when I was
they-
about 13.
Because I might have been watching them at the same time. I feel like they were censored, but they left enough in where it wasn't. You didn't really notice that it was censored too much.
Maybe
I
that's what it
think,
was
yeah.
because it was like my first time watching them.
Yeah.
Like that's how I first got into. Because my parents never let me rent any of those movies. The covers of like
Yeah.
Friday the 13th. That's some shit that scared me when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, in the video store, Royal Video in Canarsie in Brooklyn, in the kids section, they had this massive cutout of Leatherface from
Really?
yeah, by the kids section from Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, and like I had no idea what this was, and I flat out refused to go in there because I was so fucking scared.
Yeah.
Like his foot was up on like this bloody stump, and he had that chainsaw. You know, his chainsaw is like fucking huge in part 3, and it was just this gigantic cutout. And like, I want to go rent like, you know, Peanuts VHS or
Yeah.
like Transformers and shit.
know,
and
so-
I refused to go in there. It was there for like a month, right in the window, and like my mom had to go in there and rent shit for me.
When I was a kid, my mom one time rented us Peter Pan, the Disney Peter Pan from the library, and you would get the library case, and they were just those generic cases. And this was like I was a kid, so I wasn't able to read or anything at the time. I was like really young, and I knew how to work the VCR though, so I was like, "Oh, I want to watch Peter Pan again," and I grabbed Child's Play.
Oh no!
And it's just the beginning of Child's Play where Chucky cuts the head off of the Jack in the Box, and I saw that and I was like, "Ah!"
Was
like
that the
I
first one?
freaked.
That was
Was
like
it
the-
whichever one it was?
That's like the cover where he has the.
There's like a part that actually
Wasn't it
happens
like
in it though, right?
I remember it beginning with like the killer guy in the toy store
What
and
was
like the light.
maybe
maybe it was
and then he
the
does-
trailer?
It might have been the trailer.
It might have been a trailer
That's definitely
on
what
the
it was.
tape or something like that.
Yeah.
But it was that's what came on. It wasn't Peter Pan. It definitely wasn't. That
Yeah.
wasn't supposed. And it was whatever my family rented because my family would rent from the library and they'd rent like us something and then them something.
Peter Pan.
I gotta bring up since I didn't know we were gonna talk about Jason Voorhees so much, but goddamn, I just finished up a whole thing with Jason Voorhees for that nerd episode. I don't know if it's out yet or not, but wait till you see. If it's not,
I think it comes out this Friday.
wow. So Friday the 13th on Commodore 64. Wait till you see that
I'm
shit.
excited.
It's crazy. Like it's the stupidest game adaptation or like a movie adapted into a game that I've ever seen. It makes no sense. But I'll say no more. Just wait till you see
yeah,
that.
I'm excited for that. But Halloween 3.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We'll get back to Halloween 3.
I'm
So-
mad I didn't watch that as not when it came out, but like even when I
When I
didn't
was
watch
younger, same.
I didn't watch a lot of horror until high school and college when I had friends kind of bring me into it. I watched some stuff and as I said in the last episode, Fire in the Sky scared me and stuff, but I never seeked out scary stuff. And when I watched it, I thought it was funny. Like me and my sister would rent like bad vampire movies and just dumb shit, But I don't know. What the hell were we just talking about?
Halloween 3.
Oh, yeah,
Halloween 3 and how it's
But-
the best one.
Well,
But- but,
put it this
but I
way,
watched-
it's the most Halloween of all of them because
far and away.
it's about Halloween. Like the main villain in the movie is like this hardcore Halloween fanatic where he's like, I'm going to return Halloween back to its glory of the Samhain days, of the sacrifices and everything. And of course, the movie's ridiculous, but it's a lot of fun.
It's so good.
And the soundtrack, do yourself a favor.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to bring up too.
Yeah. Go on Spotify, Apple Music, whatever you use. Look up John Carpenter's score to Halloween 3. It is so good. It's the best score, I think, aside from like the original Halloween. It's so good. You could just put that in when you're driving around looking at Halloween decorations and stuff, and it just sets the perfect mood.
Yeah,
absolutely. I would agree. That was one thing I was going to bring up. Like any of like the spooky synthwave bands or acts out now.
Oh yeah. Oh, remember?
It just sounds like you're just covering Halloween 3.
We went and saw Goblin.
Yeah.
One time, I remember in concert, and the other band, they played like all what's it called, the Night of the Living Dead music and stuff.
Badass.
But they play it like with the projector show, so it's playing the scenes while they're actually playing the score to the music.
Oh, that's
and stuff.
awesome.
That is awesome.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Yeah, I remember it in Portland. I think I brought this up before, but we were at a Quarter World. Remember?
That was the arcade we went to
like Quarter World
every night.
And the DJ, he played the like the montage of Halloween 3, but he also played the theme song to Cannibal Holocaust, and I'm like, dude, you're playing the jams right now. 'Cause that song is good too.
Yeah.
Cannibal Holocaust has some really good music to it too, which actually too, a few people pointed that out when we did the what was it, Green Dog, the opening scene where you're watching the commercial and Marshall, who's the TV guy.
That was hysterical, by the way. It's called the fucking number.
When the backgrounds that he's on, it's the intro of Cannibal Holocaust.
Oh, really?
It's the trees. As it's sweeping, I just used that as the background because since he's talking about like a Caribbean vacation,
wow. I threw
that in there as the green screen background.
Wow, yeah. That's cool.
After Halloween 3, Tom Atkins just should have been in every one, just
Tom
because he's the
Atkins
fucking man.
Yeah. Oh, I love how they're watching Halloween in Halloween 3.
Yes, like that was great. And I love how the movie ends on a cliffhanger. But
fucking Silver Shamrock, man.
Yeah, I love when he's
awesome
calling and he's like, turn it, it's still on.
Yeah.
Turn the TV off or whatever. He's freaking out.
And then it flashes on your screen.
Right, you don't know how it ends.
On the fucking bug scene.
Oh yeah,
that's the best part with the
part
kid.
where the kid's head
Would you
turns
see
to
what the mask is going to do?
Honestly, so I watched this movie one night, and I was in college when I first saw it. It was because AMC used to do it on Halloween. They would do a Halloween marathon of all the movies. And when that one came on, I was like, what the fuck? This one isn't, Michael Myers. What's going on? And when that part came on, I was eating. And I lost all appetite. It grossed me out so much when the kid's head turned into crickets. I was like,
that
kid was a piece of shit.
Yeah, he sucked.
He deserved it.
The one that bugged me, no pun intended, bugged me. But when the mouth, like when they're coming out the mouth, and
and he's just like, with the mask. It freaked me out. I like when that part when he's leaving the laboratory and he uses all the chips. And they all start blowing up and stuff or whatever. It was a good movie.
It is. I didn't watch it until, like I said, I just skipped it. I'm like, fuck Halloween 3. Mm-hmm. And then I saw some people talking on Twitter like, no, watch it like independently, just as its own movie. Like, all right, fine. Let me go check it out. So I watched it like, whoa.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
I feel like they should have
good.
They should have just released it as Season of the Witch.
Just Season of the Witch, and people would have absolutely loved it.
Yeah, and actually the creator said that too. Why am I blanking on his name? Tommy Lee Wallace I saw at a Q&A at the Cherry Hill Monster Mania one time, and he said the exact same thing. He was like, we should have just called it Season of the Witch, and it wouldn't have had such a problem. Yeah,
absolutely.
Wait, so it wasn't directed by John Carpenter?
No, he directed 1 and 2.
Okay.
And Tommy Lee Wallace, he was I think the production designer on the first one, at least, and he also played Michael Myers in a couple scenes because, like the scenes where he would have to break the door, it was easier for him to just put on the costume and do it because he knew how the door was going to break and stuff like that.
Right.
Because he might have even done it for the closet. Oh no, actually there was even like a rumor, I think, that John Carpenter was Michael Myers. There was like 6 people who played Michael Myers.
There's like the one guy that was just cast as the Shape. I forgot
Nick
his,
Castle.
Right. Yeah, he's the one that is always known.
I hate the fucking Shape. I don't like that.
How it's called the Shape.
What is that? Just a little too pretentious for you?
No, I don't like the it being like kind of a supernaturally thing. I prefer just the first movie and then call it a day. I don't like the different branching pathways or the Rob Zombie
I didn't
stuff
know about
or,
it, the
you
shape,
know.
until I saw the Halloween nerd episode, and I was like, the shape,
The
what
shape,
the fuck?
yeah.
Because I wasn't like hyper aware about directors or anything like that, like I am now because of all the shit we do with movies
Yeah.
and commentary. I didn't, honestly, that's the other thing too is John Carpenter, like noticing when you watch his movies now with a more critical eye, you definitely see a very there's similarities in just certain things and
Oh yeah.
it's also kind of weird because a lot of Halloween Season of the Witch takes place in the day. And even the first
Yeah.
Halloween, a lot of it is during the day, some of the scary scenes. Like that's something that I don't feel like you see in a whole lot of other horror movies. It's almost always
One
at
of the
night,
scariest scenes in the first Halloween is during the day when Michael Myers steps out from behind the bushes and then goes back.
Yeah.
That's still,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
like, that's fucking terrifying.
Or like
Yeah.
the laundry in the window in the
Yeah,
one movie.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's like the first movie that kind of took the idea of like, Halloween, it's so common to see people walking around in masks, but it was like, well, what if one of these people in masks just walking around was like a killer?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they went with that in like part 2. There's like people dressed like that.
Yeah.
And the cops like stop them.
They killed the Ben Tramer guy.
Right.
But that's more like the one thing I think is cool about. I mean, there's a few good things I could say about 2, but like one of the things I liked was that Dr. Loomis was starting to lose his mind as the movies go on. Where like, because as I remember, it was kind of his fault, that scene where the kid got killed. It was Dr. Loomis because he was so like
Just paranoid.
Yeah, he was like I mean, he obviously he has to go and stop Michael Myers, but he was too like trigger happy or whatever. I forget what happens in the scene. I think it was the cop who did it, or it was
Yeah, but
Something
they're like, get
so-
them. The cars are moving around.
yeah, and they like just slammed into him or whatever. But by five, when he's got the girl and he's using the girl as like bait to lure in Michael, he's like, "Come on, get her, Michael."
That's
then
right.
He's
Yeah.
going crazy by that point.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what's interesting about Dr. Loomis is that he just gets nuts as the movies go on. So we talked about Halloween 3 and the scary moments in movies, but how about some potential real monsters? How about monsters of the lake in this segment of Is It Fucking Real? So is it fucking real, lake monsters? What
I
do you
don't
think?
have nearly as much to say as I do
With UFOs.
obviously about aliens, and that's my thing. Like you mentioned, like lake monsters. I'm like, all right, let me just look up like on YouTube, like lake monster documentary.
Yeah.
And one came up about Champ in Lake Champlain. I'm like, oh, I remember hearing about that, and it was like a cheery, like lighthearted kind of documentary that I enjoyed about it. It's like
Okay.
they kept referring to him as a monster, but he's just like a sea creature saying, okay, maybe it's a holdover of like some plesiosaurus or something like that. Okay, which very well could be. That's just reclusive. Like that could absolutely exist. Sure.
Like the Loch Ness monster.
Yeah.
You gotta
know.
get. Yeah, I went on
Loch.
a tour. Yeah.
Loch.
I actually went on a tour of Scotland one time, and the tour guide he said it to us. He was like, "Oh, you gotta get the
Loch. The
Loch that loogie.
Loch
Yeah.
Ness monster.
Yeah, he actually, that tour guide said that he thought it was real, but his idea of it was it's a giant eel of some kind.
Did he ever see it? or anything?
He said he knew some people who saw it, but so I was a huge fan of the Loch Ness Monster specifically, and Champ, which is like America's version of the Loch Ness Monster, as a kid. And I always remember the classic image was that photograph from 1934, I think, where it's just the neck coming out of the water.
For Champ, you're saying?
No, Loch
for-
Ness Monster.
well,
Oh, for Loch Ness Monster. Oh, the black and white one,
the
right?
black
right.
and white one, which in like the 90s they like said it was fake, or like some guy who helped hoax it on
I
his
vaguely
deathbed
remember
said-
hearing about that.
But I don't know if that itself was like a reverse hoax to retract it or whatever. I don't know. But
Was it a couple of kids under the water in like Jaws when they were messing
I don't
around with the
know.
shark fin? Or
Yeah, something like that. But that classic image, I never connected it till much more recent. But I think the reason I was so attached to it was because it kind of reminded me of the dragon in my dreams, which
Oh,
was
yeah.
this. It was just this.
Yeah, that kind of does look like
Yeah,
it.
I can see that. Like the dragon, the dragon in your dreams popping
Yeah.
out in the water.
And for-
Yeah.
What if
anyone
it
who
was
doesn't
the
know what
whole
I'm-
time?
Yeah. And like exactly. For anyone who doesn't know what I'm talking about, there was a playground I used to play at when I was really young, and it had this neck of a dragon that was sort of meant to look like it was coming up out of the water or something. And it actually spit water. It was a water spout. But anyway, that I had some kind of fascination with the Loch Ness Monster that I never was able to understand. But during that time, I'd say around 93, 94, I would go to the library and I would just, rent out all these books on lake monsters and stuff. And I remember at that point in my life, if you would have asked me, is it fucking real? I mean, of course, if you add the swearing into it, I would say, yeah, it is, because I felt like there was enough evidence in everything I read. I was like, well, they took sonar scans of it. They have pictures of it. Why not? But nowadays I've seen so many things that explain how it's so unlikely that it could exist in the lake and how the ecosystem doesn't support it.
Well, this is also a little different than the whole Bigfoot conversation we had a few weeks ago, where there's a big fucking woods. You don't know where it could be. It could be hiding. But when you're a lake monster, you're in the lake.
Yeah, but Loch Ness is so deep. Like, there's trenches in it that just, like, that was my thing, was that first of all, it's hard to see anything because the water's murky, because there's like soot that comes off the mountains and stuff. So the water's just dark to begin with. And that nobody's ever actually like fully explored it. And so I always felt like, oh, it's looking for a needle in a haystack. It's probably there. But now that there's been many studies of the lake, and if you watch any contemporary skeptical documentaries of it, it really does make you think like, it's probably not real, because they even say like if it was a prehistoric creature, like if it was a plesiosaur, like it's usually depicted as, then the Ice Age, it wouldn't have survived past the Ice Age. There was never, like, that lake was never connected to the ocean. Like, there's so many things where when you hear all the skeptical versions of it, it's like, I don't know. Because don't you think somebody would have gotten a perfect video of it or something recently?
Yeah, someone would have seen it by now, of any of those. I mean, I'm saying, okay, I just watched that one documentary last night. Like, okay, yeah, these things could possibly exist, whatever, but I'm just not too invested in it. But yeah, when you start talking about it, like, okay, let's really dive into it. Yeah, someone would have seen them by now, because you're in a lake, you're in a confined area, not like a Bigfoot possibly in the woods.
Yeah. I know that there's like shit in the ocean that, like, there's underwater, like oil rig video that shows like giant squids and shit just chilling in the ocean and stuff, and those are real. And those look like they could be monsters, but I just don't understand.
Stuff that's like way deep in the ocean that live way down there are crazy looking.
And when they found the coelacanth, I think that was in like the 30s, that was like finding a living dinosaur, because that thing shouldn't have been alive.
Mm-hmm. What was that?
It's called the coelacanth. It's like a huge, I've seen it once in a museum, actually. It's basically like a giant fish, but it's just like what they thought was like, it
should have been extinct.
Right. Yeah, it was only in fossils and stuff. And then to find out like a living one was like, unheard of at that time.
I mean, in the ocean, there's probably shit that we've never even, I mean, there's places that, I feel like it's like, what did they say? Like there's, they've explored more of, like, people know more about what's going on in our galaxy than actually is going on under the water.
I've heard that too.
And stuff like that.
Yeah, stuff like the Marianas Trench and the Pacific Ocean, of how
that's
far
the thing
down
too,
that goes.
In space, you can see it, but with this, light doesn't get down there at all. And then on top of that, you can't even send equipment down there because the sea will crush it.
The water pressure is so
James
strong.
Cameron was down there. Challenger Deep, the lowest part of the ocean.
I think it's so weird that
Titanic
James
guy,
Cameron,
of course,
For what?
James
When he was
Cameron
doing
is
the
so
Abyss?
obsessed with the sea.
No, recently.
It's so weird to
It's
me.
great. Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
I think it's funny when
Abyss,
like you're a celebrity, like that there's different, like James Hetfield, I think is really into golf or something like that. So it's like you have these and also like Alice Cooper too, where it's like these celebrities that have these weird obsessions.
Yeah.
James Cameron directs movies, but he's really obsessed with the fucking
Well, you
ocean
have
for some reason.
fucking Tom DeLonge leaving Blink-182
That's true,
to form To the Stars Academy. Like you're leaving like like you're like the biggest
I almost
punk band in the planet, and you leave your band to go find aliens. Like that's crazy.
I've heard about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I met him a few times.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like he was super nice, and I mentioned like, dude, like aliens to him, and he was just like, I want to talk to you. Like, I got to get it back on my tour bus to like do an interview. He's like, but dude, like everyone just wants to talk to band. No one ever wants to talk to aliens.
Yeah.
I'm like 16 years old.
He was like, don't waste your time on aliens. Yet.
Yeah, so I almost at that age almost turned into that guy the lake monster guy. Like I wanted to be a cryptozoologist.
Oh, man.
Like I just wanted it to be real so badly. So my younger self would feel very sad to hear me say like I don't think they're real anymore.
Oh.
But at that time, so my dad would go fishing on Lake Champlain all the time, and that's kind of like this.
Where is that lake?
Oh, it's in between New York and Vermont.
Yeah, it's
so
huge.
It's like 100-mile long lake, and we would go there. My dad would fish, and a lot of times I would either I wasn't really into fishing, so I would either just drive the boat or whatever, which I sucked at, but still. I would just be looking for Champ, and I'm just like, come on, just put your head up one time, just for 1 second. I just want to see
I would have been
Like,
doing the same thing right there with you. Like, yes, let's go out and we're gonna find this fucking monster.
Yeah.
We're
I like
doing
your
this.
dad pulls. I'm pulling in a big one, and it just drags the boat across the fucking lake. Like,
Yeah.
You know
And
what you
like,
should do? Just start talking shit about Champ on the podcast,
Oh,
and then
yeah.
it'd be like, "Fuck you, Champ!
I'll show you who's the
You
real
suck."
champ.
Yeah,
You think you're a champ? So no,
Dude, if,
get him to come to too many games.
Oh, we're
And
already
the aliens
talking
will
about-
come and beat me up, and
They
then
will.
Champ will beat you up.
we're already talking about potentially next year, like Rex Viper, we're gonna take the show on the road, go to certain places. We play up there. We got to go hunt for Champ because I already said, you
Yeah.
guys, if we play out west and we play in like Las Vegas,
Yeah.
you guys got to deal with me dragging your asses up to the ET
Oh.
highway to the little alien in
Yeah,
Rachel,
yeah.
Nevada. Don't make a face.
Oh,
Don't make
no,
a face.
no, it's
I'm
making
into
me
it,
think
yeah,
of. You ever watch Metalocalypse?
Oh, I've
There's
seen,
seen
a
it,
the
little
yeah,
bit.
episode
yeah.
where they
Episodes.
awaken Musta Krakish, and it's like they're like, we found this this ancient scroll in your village, and they go to like Norway, and they sing this metal song that awakens Musta Krakish, this old like lake demon. And it awakens because Death Clock sang the song that awakened them up. So then they have to get them back, and the way they have to do it is they have to play like the old like lutes and everything like that. They can't use the metal music. It's pretty good.
Oh, wow.
That's pretty funny.
Metalocalypse was pretty great.
Yeah, so I even looked for Champ with sonar because this guy who owned the boat had sonar, and we would like just,
I would have been all about that, man.
Yeah, and I would look at that thing so much, and there'd just be just nothing but fish. And like we went all over that lake for like a whole day, more than once. We did this trip like maybe like 4 or 5 times in total, and I would just be looking at the sonar and like I'm looking at the lake. And then one time I saw like this cluster of fish come by, and for a second I was like, oh, here it comes. No, and then it's just a bunch of fish. I'm like, fuck. So it kind of takes the wind out of your sails when you've been there enough where it's like, fuck, if it's there, why didn't I see it yet? All this time. So yeah, there was that. So yeah, I looked for Champ. I looked for Nessie one time. My wife and I went to England and Scotland one time in the same trip. And, Scotland was beautiful, by the way.
Yeah.
And, went to Fort Augustus, that part of Loch Ness, and just, spent a little bit just looking at the waves again. And sometimes you'd see a wave break and it would kind of make like a weird form. I'd be like, I don't know. Maybe that is like what people are seeing. I don't know. But
It could be. Absolutely.
Yeah.
The lights hitting the water.
yeah. Like I've seen actual explanations of things but then the one thing is like to see a neck with a head, it's like how does
Because
So-
I heard it might have been like driftwood.
Yeah,
or
I was
something.
going to say too, like a big tree branch or something like that.
Everyone's
There's a-
drinking scotch.
Yeah, a whole lot of
Yeah.
drinking.
it's the only
going
thing
on
to
there.
drink there. Yeah.
Looks like a
Yeah, that's
like
when
a
that's when I
big
got into
monster. Wow.
That's when I got into Scotch too. Yeah, I was in my 20s at that time. So there was a really good photo of Champ that it's like the equivalent of the Nessie photo. Like Champ has that one.
Yeah, they had it in the documentary. It was like reddish, kind of.
Yeah. Reddish.
It was like a reddish looking creature.
I don't know which one that is, but it was like it shows the neck with the head.
Yeah, that was.
And
it's kind of grainy or something. Yeah, it was in the
Yeah.
documentary I watched.
It's
I've
back
never
in
heard
the
of Champ until today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this photo was taken back in like 77 or 78,
Yeah.
back when it wasn't quite as easy to fake things. I think the woman who took the photos named Sandra Mancy, I believe. And for a while, like, even till now, I think that's always been regarded as like the picture of Champ, and it even held up to a lot of scrutiny and analysis. Like a lot of those documentaries, just like they go into these detailed like analysis of how the photo was taken and the position in the lake and everything, and how this like scientists have said this is real. Like this is actually like there's no trickery in this photograph. But there's a few problems where things don't add up. Where, like, first of all, the negative is gone, which, you know, that can happen. I mean, I guess you could lose your negative, but there's a little bit of things where it seems like, okay, maybe she's not telling us everything, because she would not tell them the location of it, and she gives the reason why. Well, I think she gave two contradicting reasons. I mean, I'm not exactly sure. You might want to go back and research it, but I think one time she said she couldn't remember where it was, which is perfectly reasonable. But another thing she said was that she was worried that they might do something to hurt the monster. There might be like some monster hunters that come after, but I don't know how the position, like the location, would have anything to do with that. It's not like it's going to pop up in the exact spot again. It's the whole lake. It could be anywhere.
Yeah.
So
Maybe it's just a spot it enjoys being. I don't know.
yeah, there's a little bit of
spot.
fuzzy.
Yeah, exactly. Looking good over there.
Maybe she's in love with the monster.
Yeah.
That's cute.
She doesn't want the like. Who's a monster hunter?
Yeah.
That's just really fancy.
Oh, who's a
like,
monster romancer?
I don't know. Like, maybe if you find a monster, like you could probably.
Yeah, I guess so.
But it's like
Who's an
are
alien
there,
wrestler?
Are there monster hunters?
Who's calling out aliens for
Hey,
wrestling?
I'm a possible future alien wrestler.
But it's
I'm
really
not one
cool
right now.
If you go to Lake Champlain, there's a little monument, like a little, like, you know, almost like the size of a gravestone, and it has a picture of Champ, and it just says, dedicated to Champ, all the people who have sighted Champ and all the people who are searching for Champ. So my dad and I would always make it a tradition to go over to that monument all the time.
Pay your respects.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like the whole town. There's like a festival that they have where they have a part where like
Burlington, it's an awesome town.
yeah, they
yeah.
like celebrate that. It's like a positive thing. It's
I always like
why
that
you calling
kinda,
him a monster?
Yeah.
That's the
He's a
thing. Like
friend.
it's neat that towns are like, hey, like that you know, because of I guess like whoever found him or something the first time, it ends up leading to this thing that brings kind of everybody in the community together.
Well, it's
and
kind of
has
like
a fun
West
thing.
Virginia with the Mothman.
Mothman.
city.
Everyone
Yeah.
has that. Yeah.
Also, too, like I mean, even in Phoenixville, they got the Blob Fest and everything.
Yeah.
But that's not like, you know, oh, I saw the
I've
Blob.
always
It's-
wanted to go to that. We
Oh,
drove
it's
past
really
it.
fun. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
after
good
we went
time.
out that night when we passed by the Colonial, like, oh
Yeah,
shit,
yeah.
there it is. I'd never seen it
Yeah.
before.
Blobfest is a really, really fun time. It's
Oh,
just,
yeah.
and also Phoenixville is a nice, fun town to run around all.
I didn't
as
know
it
how many
is.
like breweries there were.
Yeah,
and
a
stuff.
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to sometimes just go up the whole street and just, I mean, not even every single one, but just hit up like
Oh
a
yeah,
few
we
in a
should
row.
definitely. That'll be fun.
Yeah, I
Well-
hope there's some time. Too many games, but we'll see.
I think the problem
Yeah.
with cryptids, especially, is you kind of assign human intelligence to Bigfoot and Mothman and lake monsters. So you assume they're up to no good, or if you're going to try and find them, they will somehow outsmart you, rather than they're just like animals doing their own thing. Because if they were just animals doing their own thing, you would see them way more. Like if you go out in the ocean, you see whales and shit and whatever all the time.
Yeah.
You know, they come up for stuff
Yeah,
and
yeah.
whatever.
Well,
so
them being elusive is part of like the cryptid.
I get
lore,
it, but we're
like the Jersey
we're-
Devil.
We're
you know?
talking about, is it fucking real?
Right, yeah.
Not
Well,
is it
that's how
fucking
all
fun
of
to
them-
talk about.
We might
But
have to
all
do
of them
Jersey
are
Devil
like, is it
sometime.
fucking real?
Yeah, is it fucking real? So I don't
Is
know,
it
what do you guys
fucking
think?
real?
Yeah.
Yeah, do you think it's fucking real, the lake monsters?
It could be. Sure, why not?
Neutral?
Now I'm neutral on it.
I don't think so. It is fun. I will say there's probably some shit at the bottom of the ocean we shouldn't be stirring up. But yeah, I don't think lake monsters are real.
All right, so you want to do some fan questions?
Sure, I got a few fan questions. I know we didn't get to many last week.
Yeah.
This
we'll try
is-
not to ramble too much. We'll
Yeah,
try to
I'll
answer the
I'll
questions.
keep it tight this time.
This is from Fondle at Fondle Punch. If you guys owned racehorses, what would you name them? I'd go with Fondle Punch.
I was gonna,
Wow,
That's a
okay.
good one. Fondle, Fondle Punch in the lead, going after her, like
Fondle Punch. Blah, blah, blah.
Turbo Deluxe.
Turbo Deluxe.
Turbo Deluxe.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah.
I go with Diddums. That's one
Like, speaking of that, Diggum Frog, he's kind of a dickbag too.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's corn cereal, I think, or it's puffed wheat.
I don't trust him. Wait, what is
You
this?
don't?
Diddums.
What is
Oh,
that?
wait
Diddums.
till you
It's from
see
it's from
Commodore.
yeah, it's from the Commodore.
Oh, the
it's from a
Commodore
game called
episode.
Get Off My Garden.
Right.
What
Every
about-
time you die, he goes, Diddums. Like
That's right.
What about Thrasher Turbo Diesel? Because when we were coming up with Rex Viper, I was like, are we going to come up with like character names for our ridiculous
Thrasher
fucking
Turbo
band?
Diesel.
Yeah,
Like, I mean,
yeah.
Thrasher Turbo Diesel on fucking bass,
Thrasher
man.
Turbo Diesel.
I never told you that.
You did tell me once, like, are we going to come up with names?
Yeah, like, are we going to come up with, like, fucking crazy shit for that? Like, because we wanted to do, like, costumes on stage and really have, like, these personas. Like, all right, let's really go stupid with it.
Yeah, rock and Rolfe.
Yeah.
Rock and Rolfe.
Yeah, Rolfe Rock. The next one is from The Man Called Hondo. We actually met this guy. He was the cowboy-looking chap. He looks like a cowboy villain. He met us at the Joe Bob event. Remember?
All right. Yeah.
He brought his daughter, and they met us, and it was really cool.
Came all the way from Texas, I believe.
From Texas. They drove all the way up.
Wow.
And finally getting to your question. He's at Man Called _Hondo. What's the weirdest question you've ever been asked? And what's the answer to that question? Inquiring minds want to know. Probably the Fondle Punch question about racehorses.
Yeah, the most recent one. Off the top of my head, I can't think of. I've been asked weird things, but I can't think of what was the weirdest thing I've been asked. Oh, actually, I have a video put together. I don't know if it's out yet, but it's me answering funny emails. It's because we did a nice email mailbag, and now I did a funny one.
I think that came out last week. I'm not sure where we're putting it yet, but
okay. So, but those are some funny, weird questions. But on top of that, just to give a little bonus, I do remember some weird things signing, because I've signed almost everything. I remember, signing a psychology textbook, chewed up piece of a bagel, sometimes like a pizza box. People come up and they just have like whatever weird things. The weirdest thing I think, which just to explain how it happened, some guy, he went to high school with me, but we didn't know each other at all. Well, he looked in his yearbook one time and he sees James Rolfe in there, and there's my face, and he's like, "Oh my God, I went to school with James Rolfe." So he brought it to my table. He has the yearbook. He's like, "Look, I know this is weird, but he has my senior yearbook." Yeah, and he's like, "There's me, and there's you. Can you sign my yearbook?" So it's like I didn't sign his yearbook when we were in high school,
it's like
but
20
all
years
these years later, I
that's
signed it.
Cool.
That's fucking funny.
For your yearbook, did you have to put like a quote or anything like that? Do you remember what you did?
A quote?
Yeah, like sometimes they have like senior quotes or whatever.
Yeah. You would write in something.
Well, you had to
down?
fill it out beforehand, and it would get printed.
It would be printed on there.
Something printed? No,
Yeah.
I don't remember anything like that.
In ours, for some reason, my whole yearbook in 2003 at beautiful Lenape High School in Medford, New Jersey, they had it was music themed, so the whole front of it was like Abbey Road, and the there was a picture in the middle, and then they had it was like felty and furry and red and creepy. I didn't like that, but we had to put our lyrics. It was music lyrics. So my sister put fucking Marilyn Manson, and my friends put weird stuff at the time, like Blind Guardian or whatever. And I was working at the movie theater, and Like Mike just came out, so I put the lyrics to Little Bow Wow's I love that basketball. So you see my picture in underwear under it. It says, "I love that basketball."
I was going to say, you definitely put the stupidest fucking thing you probably did.
It was pretty funny.
I put some angsty lyrics from this punk band, Strung Out. I can't remember exactly how it went, but yeah, it was pretty much just a giant fuck you to everyone in my class. Fuck you, I don't like you guys. Yeah.
Fuck you, everybody. We're out of here.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was
like. We had to do memorable moments of school, and ours was we had this friend that we used to pay, and he would eat garbage and stuff like that. And he was a good friend
knew
of ours.
Someone in high school that would just do.
The funny thing is, I'm actually we didn't know.
See Charlie Day.
He kind of, but the thing, I'm actually still friends with the guy to this day on Instagram and stuff, and he actually gives me he gave me a really good bunch of vegan recipes. He makes his own meat and stuff now and stuff, like vegan meat. And but back in high school, one time we paid him to eat French fries off the trash because somebody put a full thing of French fries, and I was like, "Yo,
was it above the lid like in Seinfeld?"
Yeah. And he ate, but then one time he ate a bee.
He ate a fucking bee.
He ate a bee.
Was it alive?
No, he killed it. He stomped it and then ate it. And one time what happened was, actually at Liberty Lake, there was a gazebo out at Liberty Lake, and Liberty Lake is a day camp, and there was a bag of snack pack puddings that had been out there forever, and the refrigerator died, so this snack pack pudding had just been sitting in there, and it was vanilla, but it was jet black, and my friend was like, "Yo, there's this pudding," and he was like, "How much would it?" And we were like, "How much would we need for you to drink it or whatever?" And he was like, "Dude, you guys would have to give get so much money. So we each I had like $5. I mean, my one friend had 10. We got like all of us together. We gave him about $35. And
I was gonna
we went
say
outside.
it's like it better be at least $100.
Yeah.
So
Like $35.
So we went
man.
outside and he opened the snack bag. First off, it smelled
I
so
was
like
gonna
we were
say.
gagging, like we were throwing up almost from the smell of it. And he sipped it and it was liquid. It was jet black. It was a vanilla pudding. We don't know
how
how
much
long
did
it was
he
in
get?
there.
$35 for
$35, but it got in his mouth and he gargled it and he
vomited?
spitted it back out and threw up. It actually stained the sidewalk. The sidewalk was brand new outside of our engine repair area. It was like brand new, like white concrete. Stained the pudding hit and stained it.
How have I never heard this?
Wait. You're saying it was at the
And it
summer
was there
camp?
for years.
No, it wasn't at the
It's
summer
still
camp.
there.
My
Yeah,
friend
the
worked
rain
at
and
Liberty
the elements
Lake.
didn't wash it away.
No, my friend, it stayed there when it happened, we were in 9th grade. The stain remained there until we graduated.
The stain remains the
stain
same.
remained. It was there, just a little black splatter mark on the
We
white
gotta
concrete.
write an EP called
I'm not
Stain
even kidding.
Remains.
Yeah.
And write like a concept EP
We literally,
about this, man.
We would
That's
go out
good.
every
Stain
day.
remains.
The stain remains.
We would go out
3-song
every
EP.
day.
We're gonna
Yeah.
do some originals.
It was in the same place, and we would always be going to the bus, and we'd be like, "There's the stain," and I wrote that in my yearbook. The time, he drank the rancid pudding, and it stained the sidewalk for 4 years is written in my yearbook.
Damn,
Like,
dude.
under your picture or
No,
where?
it's in you have a page of quotes, and it's like, what was your memorable moment? And I wrote that, and
just wrote
that's
Stain
Can you get a
Remains.
picture of that?
yeah, I'll get it. Yeah.
Put a
That's
stain
fucking-
on it.
It was straight up we couldn't believe. I should go back to my high school and see if it's still there, but I'd have to go onto the property and go behind. It's way in the
I like
back
how
of
they're
the-
like, sir, what are you doing at this
I'm like,
camp?
I'm here
at
to
the
see if the
stain,
stain is here.
dude.
If it's still
don't know.
there, like
probably
that
been
would honestly be
repaved
the
and everything.
it might be, yeah. It was out by the engine repair area of
Like,
I went to
holy
Northern
shit.
Burlington High School. If anyone watching goes to Northern Burlington in New
High
Jersey,
school is their stain.
and you're out in the back by the engine repair area where the paved sidewalk is, outside the door that leads to the buses, if there is a black splatter mark, that's from the pudding, if you can find it. If anybody...
Holy shit.
That's
I
a
don't
good
know.
topic too. Like things that you wonder if they're still there.
Yeah.
Like things that you did or something that happened. Like I remember we used to build all these tree forts like in the neighborhoods and stuff. And sometimes I wonder, is there any remains of like any tree fort that we ever built? Even if it's just one piece of wood or even a
Something
nail
like
or
nailed to the
did.
thing.
I drove back to where I grew up in Brooklyn, and I wrote my name on a brick in fucking chalk on my house, and it was under an awning, and it was still a little bit there.
Wow.
This was like 2016 or so. Nina and I were coming back. We were like visiting their parents on Long Island, and we're coming back. We're passing on like the Belt Parkway, like Rockaway Parkway. Like, oh, you want to see where I grew up? Like right off of there. And we drove by, and like I'm walking, and then there were like people outside, and I'm like, hey, like I grew up here in the 80s. Like, you mind if I just go up there? And like, oh yeah, sure. And I walk up there, and I'm like, oh, I wrote my name, and I'm like, I barely see it on there. Like, you got to be fucking kidding
Wow.
me. Yeah.
Crazy.
All right, I guess we'll just round that out then. We'll have some more questions next time. But and then anyway, it was great having Adam Shub,
Thank you.
the SquarePainter, bassist of Rex Viper, on the podcast.
Thanks for having me on.
And next week, I think we have more guests because we're gonna, record some with people at Too Many Games when they're coming in as guests,
Which I can't wait for.
Yeah.
which would have already happened at this point.
Oh, I mean, it was awesome.
Yeah. So
I enjoyed watching them.
Yeah.
Yeah, what if...
So anyway, have a good one. We'll see you next Tuesday.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Cinemassacre Podcast. See you next Tuesday. Check out more episodes at cinemassacre.com or wherever you fill up your ear holes with podcasts.